Greetings, Cosmic here, and welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a little bit different, talking about some updates because, well, there's a lot going on next year, as you may have been aware of as if you're following me on Twitter or X, as well as been trying to update the YouTube community pages, but I figured it would still be proper to do a video and talk about it because for those that don't know, next year is kind of a big deal for the channel and kind of content creation of how long I've been doing this in general. So for those that don't know, and to give a little bit of a proper background to all of this, I've been doing card games now for about 10 years going into next year. It'll be the 10-year anniversary of covering content, going all the way back to Force of Will. And I also moved some things around on the channel, so you can now see the over 10 different card games that I've covered in that time span, because I'm someone who just likes to bring gameplay to other games that might not have as much of a spotlight on them on YouTube or other, channels that they deserve, because I just really enjoy playing them and think they deserve a spotlight. That's how we got started with Force of Will, and well, I've tried to stay true to that best as I could. Obviously, we did play a little bit of Magic, because Magic was my first card game. We did a little bit of Legends of Runeterra, because it is still my favorite digital card game. Spoiler, Legends of Runeterra, go check it out. Love it as a digital card game. But otherwise, we have just kind of gone through different games. We've gone through different organized play methods. We've had a long journey, needless to say, coming up on 10 years. So with that said, I did want to try to look back at the channel and kind of understand what I did originally and kind of my goals going forward, because for those that don't know, I do work full time. This is a hobby thing on the side, but I have been very, very blessed to land a new job, which is very flexible with my schedule and allows me to, well, play more than a couple card games, it turns out. So when it comes to card games, a big part of it is making sure that it's still a game that I enjoy and one that I can hopefully play locally. So you'll see there is quite a variety of games in the thumbnail, which we are going to talk about all of them to some degree, but there is going to be, again, as I mentioned, some changes, because I really want to get back to the roots of how I started the YouTube channel, and just kind of, I always had this idea that I wouldn't do this past 10-year mark. Spoiler, probably will do it a little bit longer than that, but I, at least if something does come up, if I decide to stay with that, I want to have the last year just be a celebration of card games, because if you've been following the industry, we are in the largest saturated market of trading card games that we have ever seen. Again, in my 10 years of doing this, it's actually insane to see how far we've come, just from not only other, Japanese trading card games coming west, because again, I started with Force of Will, and that will primarily always be my focus as Japanese trading card games, because that's what I prefer personally now, to seeing so many new things come up, like Flesh and Blood, like Grand Archive, which, yes, is an American company, but they take like the JPTCG roots. It's really interesting to see how that one's come around. But as you know, there's a lot of different examples in the market today. So again, I really hope to highlight some of these games. A lot of it too will be trying to find more time to play with other content creators and do more collaboration stuff. I've been trying to do that with obviously Spirits Saga. We've done that a little bit, but really just drive home the point of trying to get more gameplay videos out there. Because it's always nice to look back to, is if you think back on a game, like we still have all our Final Fantasy trading card game content and stuff like that, right? Or Force of Will. Those games are still alive. They're still doing well. Shout out to Final Fantasy. They just had their worlds. But it's one of those things that if I were to just private the videos as like some big rebrand thing, right? Which a lot of creators do, or they start a new channel, those videos just get lost. Like that time and that history is then just kind of wiped off the face of the earth. And I hate that. So I really hope that by highlighting some of these other games coming up, and obviously ones, again, that I enjoy, that does have to be a key focus. That does mean as I'm focusing on more gameplay time, because I edit everything and I do everything myself, of course, other videos will kind of have to go to the side. So one of the other things I've been thinking about is drifting away from like the full heavy on set reviews, just because there's so much that I go through, and especially when we talking about more card games, those will kind of be moved away. And instead, I'll probably just do like a top 10 cards from the set, the things that I'm either most interested in or I think will be the most competitive viable, and then really just focus on gameplay. Again, probably some meta reports and things of that nature as they come out, but a lot to, kind of figure out where things land going forward. But with how busy December is going to be, with the Grand Open to Pro Tour to Holiday, content might be a little bit light for this month. And then, of course, next month with January, we're already getting Fusion World spoilers. Star Wars Unlimited is coming out very early on too. We're at like 160 cards or something out of the 250. So there is a lot of gameplay potential that we are going to be coming up with. So again, kind of wanted to give that whole history up front and just kind of say like, hey, I'm excited for a lot of these games. But before we get into it, before you get too far in the video, let me know what game you are currently playing in the comments, because I'm very excited to see what other people might be currently playing or looking forward to. So with that, let's get into the game discussion itself. And up first, we have Battle Spirits Saga. No surprise, and well, if you've been around this channel at any point this year, you know that this is my favorite trading card game in the last 10 years, and it is absolutely going to remain a focus. It's something that I truly appreciate because it is not color locked, which, spoiler, we're going to be talking about that a lot. As I was putting this video together, I was kind of shocked at how big color locking or leader locking is a thing. So if you want a game that's going to reward you as a deck builder and reward you from being very mechanical and being very strategic in your deck inclusion choices, then this is absolutely going to be a game for you. I really do love that in set 3, Aquatic Invaders, we did get to see a lot more of the artwork updated, really giving it a fresh look. And then, of course, I got to give a shout out to the last card that's on the row there. That is Evangelion from the Japanese Battle Spirits, but we do have collabs coming in 2024. Of course, we are getting the alt arts in set 4, as well as a full collab set. And me, personally, I've always really liked what they did for the collabs in Japanese Battle Spirits, so I'm really curious to see how they implement this in Battle Spirits Saga and what that looks like just from a product design standpoint, and hopefully get some starter decks as well. So again, not much here is going to be changing. This will still be, the main focus of the channel overall. Again, I'm probably just going to try to really focus more in on gameplay and kind of highlighting the other archetypes that don't get a lot of love, because by the time that we've looked at set 3 meta, right, there's something like over 20 different archetypes that are playable to various degrees. Like, obviously, your tier 1 is going to be like your red mid-range, your yellow Fable Beast, and stuff like that in nature. But then you have like a very solid tier 2 Colosseum Golem deck. And I want to try to highlight some of those other archetypes that aren't always going to get showcased in the top 16, because that's what the cutoff is for Bandai, and give players something to look forward to for the next set. Because as we've seen time and time and time again, these sets are meant to build off one another, and that way, if you have a shell for Colosseum Golem, it gives the player an opportunity to take that to locals, refine it, and then when set 4 comes out, you go, oh hey, here's the new Golem support, it goes in the stack, and it should be hopefully easier to transition the list that I was using in a video into a more updated. And of course, we will revisit some of these like we have with Luster. Spoiler, Luster's very good right now, and we've seen that change from set 1 to set 3, so we did recently a versus video on it, and provided a new list going forward. That said, in terms of exciting news for Battle Spirits Saga, we are getting a fan-made, community-made digital simulator, which is very much a work in progress right now, but it will be something that is easily accessible. You don't have to worry about Tabletop Simulator and all that nonsense anymore, which, again, huge love and credit to the community that put together the Tabletop Simulator mod, but it is one of those things where it's always that barrier, even if it's $10, even if it's $20, right? $10 if you get on sale, that is still a barrier to players. So having something that is totally free and accessible does wonders for helping people play against one another. There is currently development being happened on this. We know that there's a conversation going in the Discord about when it's going to be released, but if you're looking for that, make sure to check out the link to the Discord in the description, and that way we can get more information out there when it's available. We will also be doing a proper update when it is available and make sure people are aware that it's out and ready, but right now, again, it is a work in progress, have to wait and see and when it's going to be ready, but very excited based on the early previews that we've been able to see. So definitely make sure to look forward to that, because I think it is going to be a huge boost for the game itself. Moving on from there is Fusion World. This is Dragon Ball card games kind of reboot, right? And I don't want to say reboot because Masters is still going, but it is going to be a brand new game, and it's going to be a fusion, hint, hint, between the physical and digital side. So yes, there is going to be a fully supported digital client, and there is going to be things like code cards. So you will get rewarded for buying booster packs at your LGS, and we don't know the full details if it's going to be, I know in some cases they limit how many you can do in Pokemon now versus if it's just going to be here's a starter deck, you upload the starter deck and you get like 10 free boosters. We're still waiting for the finer details in terms of what is the currency going to look like, right? There's a lot of questions, but ultimately I think this is a great opportunity for players to kind of revisit Dragon Ball Super, because it is one, if you look at the current Masters game, it is very difficult to get into. I mean, it is one of those things that you are going to get punished for not knowing the format and not knowing it at a deep level, because it's probably, I hear this all the time from the Masters players, like it's the closest thing that you're going to get to chess in a card game because of how consistent, how strong the tutor plans are for what you can do. And there are just a lot of moving pieces. If you look at the game map for it now compared to Fusion World, there are so many extra zones and extra things going on. So that is something, to look out for. For me personally, this is one where just based on time and again, trying to think about more of a gameplay structure, I will be focusing mostly on the digital side because one, I'm very curious about it, right? Coming from Legends of Runeterra, Magic Arena, things of that nature, and then everyone's played Hearthstone, surely. I'm really curious to see how they do this. If you've been around this channel long enough, you might remember that we covered Lightseekers and Age of Sigmar Champions. Whew, that is a throwback. If you know, you know. But I really did love what PlayFusion tried to do for that game, and Warhammer was just fun, but this is now an opportunity for Bandai to really hit a home run on this. So this is one that obviously I've covered the original Dragon Ball 7 years ago on the channel. There's a couple videos we did back then as part of like giveaways and opening up booster boxes and things of that nature, but I didn't stick with it at the time because I was playing Final Fantasy and some other games. But with digital, you have that flexibility of just playing whenever and wherever you want. If you have a PC, I'm sure mobile's coming later, but I would not be surprised if we do see some type of either ladder or tournament support, because one of the things that I keep going back to and why I appreciate everything that Bandai is doing so much, as someone who's played dozens of different card games or for dozens of different card game companies, for, you know, writing articles or doing website updates, stuff like that, I've done a lot. And the thing that I always go back to Bandai about is that they very much understand both the accessibility from a card standpoint. So your base rarity of Bandai games is always going to be cheap. Obviously, after Super and after the Ultimate thing, they've made it a point to make their games cheaper. And then also from a webcam or online regional standpoint, that is something that a lot of card games adopted for COVID and then just dropped off. And the reality is not everyone lives 20 minutes to a local shop. Not everyone has the ability to go to Gen Con for one big event every year, right? So there is a relatively large market of players who want to play these card games, but do not have an avenue other than online play. And between their metaverse project and a lot of other stuff going on, as well as now saying like, hey, we are doing a full out digital platform for this, I got to give it to Bandai. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Is organized play a nightmare sometimes? Absolutely. But organized play has just been kind of a toss-up in 2023 as all. I mean, we could talk about Grand Archive and the 16-hour tournament for 5 rounds, things of that nature, right? Like, there are a lot of other hiccups that have happened across games. We had the Flesh and Blood, or I think that might have been last year now, but the Oldhim mirror that took like 5 hours in finals or whatever it was, right? So you are still going to have issues across every game at the end of the day. Obviously, if you want the premier experience with all the decoration, all the fanfare, you really have to rely on the big three, being Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Those are kind of always going to be the staples, but I do see improvements from Bandai. Small improvements, but improvements nonetheless. That gives me hope for this game. So, again, for me personally, I'm going to be largely on the digital side, but if you are looking for two people who I know are absolutely going to be hammering out the content and have already started, make sure to go check out Aspira, who you obviously know by now has been featured, friends with and featured on the channel multiple times for versus videos, other things. We have the Church of Penitent podcast, all that stuff. And then UniX as well is back. He is ready to dive into Dragon Ball. So please make sure to go subscribe to both of their channels and look forward to more gameplay content. I will say, if I do webcam based games or like pseudo in-person content with either one of them, it'll just be over webcam and it'll just probably be featured on their channel. But with the digital client, I imagine a lot of us will just be focusing on the digital side. So Fusion World, definitely keep it on your radar. I think it's going to be one that the digital client is going to either make or break it ultimately, but everyone said that the first open beta was extremely positive, lots of hype coming around it, and I think it will be not as big as One Piece, because it's truly amazing what One Piece is still doing, but I think this is a good opportunity to put some life back into the card game that it desperately needed from the master side. Moving on from there, we have Union Arena, and whew, all right, so this is an interesting one, right? I have been tweeting about this and posting about this all year long. Go check the receipts. I don't care. It's on Twitter. You can go look it up. I've covered it quite a bit. But this is an interesting one. So the one thing I didn't mention about Fusion World, it is going to be color locked. What we can only assume, like One Piece, and Union Arena is both IP locked, and by natures of the game, it is color locked as well, because you build out your board and build out your energy. So essentially, you'll see here on the bottom right corner, there is a energy marker, and the top left, there is a cost and an action. So For those that don't know, just a very high level overview of Union Arena. You do have up to 3 action points. It is basically the Weiss, if you can't tell, for Bandai. It's just their IP battling card game, and I'm just using Demon Slayer here as the example. So you start the game with 1 action point. Cards will either say 1 or 0 actions based on what their type they are. A lot of them will have at least 1. You play out your cards, much like Weiss, where you're building into your clock, taking damage to move up in your levels. In Union Arena, you're building up your energy to play your big, effectively, key spirit, because there is also an evolve feature in this game where you're laying cards on top of one another to get a boosted effect. And of course, it is just going to be the style of pick your favorite IP, pick your favorite characters, and build a deck. I will say the deck building choices are a bit limited, similar to how they are limited in Weiss, to be fair, but with each of the IPs, and I have to go in to make sure every single one has it, but generally there is going to be the 4 colors, and then there's going to be a little bit of variation within them between the play style, what the key character or key spirit does, and how it affects the gameplay turn over turn. And then each turn you're getting an action point, so you can do more things in your turn. There are, I think they're called events in the game, or spells or magic, right? One-time use effects that can either refresh your action points and let you take additional actions that turn, and you kind of get the idea, right? It is just a build up into this attacker who is then going to attack your opponent's life. So this does have a shield-based game where you have 7 life, if I'm not mistaken, it's 7 or 8, I forgot off the top of my head, and you are attacking your opponent's life. There are triggered effects, as you can see on the cards here at the bottom with that bar of text. So there is still, if you've played Duel Masters or Kaijudo, you're going to have that similar feel to it where you are checking something. There is that little bit of exciting RNG element to it. And of course, the biggest reason why someone might care about this game is that the alt art SPs are just absolutely gorgeous. I've been sharing these on Twitter. The gold stamping they do, like the God Rare foiling that they've recently added to Masters and have now put into Union Arena, it just looks gorgeous. I mean, the gameplay, I do like it better than Weiss technically, which, isn't saying much because Weiss is an older game. This is like an updated version of it, right? It smooths out some things. Some things are better, some things are worse, but side by side, I do like Union Arena more overall. But it is still one of those things where it's like, I really appreciate the flexibility in deck building where you can mix and match as much as you want, where this one is a little bit confined where if you pick an IP, 80 to 90% of your deck is more or less pre-made for you. And then it's just those couple of flex spots you get at the end. Now, I do want to give a shout out for those who want to know a little bit more in case I just butchered that quick explanation. There are a couple different channels out there. I did see this video by DPP who was putting it together and has a couple different videos that they talk through. It is in English, so you can at least follow the gameplay and see if it's something that you're interested in. And also shout out to them. They have a super cool layout for this, and they've always do good work on their game, so love it. Go check it out. And the reason why I'm mentioning this, because even though it's not confirmed, and while it's not uncommon for Japanese websites to have an English version for it, for the other SEA or Southeast Asia regions to pick up the game and play it, there's been an increasing amount of English context that's out there for the game, like on the websites, as well as we know that it was played at Gen Con. So one thing I will be, I'm not saying it's going to happen at Worlds that there's going to be announcements for Union Arena, but I would bet my bottom dollar sometime next year they're going to announce Union Arena and it will be available. And shocker, I am part of the problem because I will absolutely buy the Tails set. I will absolutely buy the Demon Slayer set, right? Like, these are things that I will just buy. And of course, if I'm buying it, I'll at least do an unboxing of it of some sort. And then of course, if other people are interested in it, I will, do a couple gameplay sessions on the channel as well. So again, technically not confirmed, but a lot of signs are now pointing to a probably 2025 or late 2024 release, if I had to take a guess. Could be like a Gen Con release sort of thing. I guess that would make like the most sense, which means we should hear something around Worlds. Who knows? But definitely something that I am keeping on my radar. Again, the deck locking side of it might be a little off-putting, but the cards are gorgeous to look at, and the foiling is well enough that it will sell. And I know a lot of people might be curious of like, oh, well, how did it do in Japan? Well, it made top 10 in sales, which is pretty bloody good, all things considered, knowing how heavy the market is in Japan. So they did something right. Obviously, waifus and husbandos being very shiny is a good way to sell a card game. So Would not be surprised if it sees similar success to Weiss over here, where you have some sets, like I'm sure Demon Slayer would do phenomenal in the States, but then something like Tales of Arise, even though I appreciate it because I've played through it and I love the characters, I have a statue, up on my shelf you can't see right now, but it's in the background of a lot of my shots. I'm sure that would just tank. I could not imagine that doing well in the Western market, but that said, it is Bandai owned, so it's very easy for them to do it, and they don't have to license out every single one of these. And it does beg the question: is that we could see a Gundam set if they want to like break apart from the structure they have right now and just do any IP, because they own Gundam. They could also do a Gundam set. Unlikely because of what they've picked so far for these, but I mean, hey, they got Tekken in a recent set, so anything is possible. Moving on from there, we have Shadowverse Evolve, and well, this is another one that you can just find gameplay on my channel already for this, and this is one that, shout out to 50 Cards, they just had a big sale on, so we are getting a couple more boxes of Reign of Bahamut in, so I will look forward to, doing an unboxing video, talk more about my plans for Shadowverse Evolve overall, and then huge shout out to Red Zone Rogue, who, again, we've done a couple games with. He's been a friend of ours for a very long time. Definitely go check it out, his channel, because I know he's trying to get more into it, and he's actually asked me if I want to record some versus videos, so they may most likely will just be on his channel for the immediate future, but if we get the, a good organized play structure next year, I am very much looking forward to this. So for those that don't know, Shadowverse Evolve is, spoiler, evolved from the gameplay of the digital client into a physical card game where, spoiler, your followers do evolve into their other form, and you have a evolved deck that is a limit of 10 cards, and they do power them up similar to the digital card game. Yes, this is leader focus or class focus, so you are limited like Hearthstone to have your, if you pick Forest Craft, which is a leader right here, wherever my finger's at, that means you can use all the forest cards and you can use neutral as well. And of course, they also have a gorgeous, gorgeous artwork in their ultimates and their alt art leaders that it is always just a pleasure to look at when you're opening packs and find those rare cards. So again, we do have some gameplay video up on the channel already. It is very similar to, again, the digital version and as well Hearthstone, where you're just naturally gaining resources over turn to play it out. And it is a very, kind of high-powered game in that regard, where as you're getting to 8 or 9 play points, the games are ending. And that's just kind of always been a design philosophy of Shadowverse Evolve, or Shadowverse into Shadowverse Evolve. So definitely, if you like that kind of gameplay, do make sure to check it out. So again, not too much I'm going to spend on this game in particular, because we already have quite a few videos on it. Just more of an update of, hey, probably going to get back into it in some regard. So please do look forward to it in the near future. And then kind of the other two big ones here are starting off with Star Wars Unlimited. So this is a very interesting one. I have name dropped enough card games that I'm going to keep name dropping card games, it would seem. The Elder Scroll Legends was a digital card game, rest in peace, a while ago, that featured a 2-lane system, which was really interesting that, characters could interact in one lane, but not the other. And it looks like Star Wars Unlimited kind of followed through with that. So on the right here, you can see we have a unit who is ground type and a unit that is space. So in the same way, you have 2 different lanes who can battle against one another, as well as attacking the base. The base is your health total. And what I really like about this game is it is open in the deck building sense. However, this game, as you'll notice, has 6 different symbols or 6 different colors, which I'm not going to get into all right now. They are traditional. If you played a card game, you can kind of guess if you see one card that type, you know what the rest are going to do, right? It's very, we've played, any TCG veteran's going to know. But really quickly, you have a leader card, which starts in play. What's really nice is these leader cards can flip over to be a unit, and once they're defeated, they just go back to being a leader, but each of them does something, right? So you'll notice you have the blue, the black, and the red symbol. So you start with a leader and a base. So we have those 3 colors. And then for each one that you're missing, you just pay 2 more for the cost itself. So yes, you do now have this option where, oh, I have, the Grixis colors of it, if you will, right? The red, blue, black, but I want to play this really cool green card. So, okay, looking at Devastator here all the way at the end, we do have one of these symbols, but it costs 10. We're missing green from our leader and our base, so this is actually a 12 cost card. And green, shocker, ramps, so you have an easier time to play out these cards. But it's just a very interesting thing to, I love that they're picking up the lane system because it plays out very, very well. And then also, for those that don't know, while I didn't cover it on the channel, I did play Star Wars Destiny for a bit, which was the dice game. And what I do truly love, and again, I'm going to include a short video here by the Garbage Rollers here that are going over the in-person gameplay. Go check out their channel for more Star Wars Unlimited gameplay. And they have this round-based gameplay. So I take an action, then you take an action, and in those rounds, at the end of it, you draw back up, you play a resource, and go into the next one. What's really interesting is whoever takes the initiative, as it's called, you get the first action in the next round. And that might not seem like that big of a deal right now, but it is absolutely massive in gameplay and how you're sequencing out your turns. And there is this kind of risk and reward system that if you take initiative too early, well, then your opponent is just going to be able to flood the board and do a bunch of things. But if you don't take it and you have a weak unit, then your opponent is going to get to KO that unit essentially for free because they're taking the first action. So there's a lot of strategic depth that's in it. And of course, it is just Star Wars, so I do expect it to do well. And this one's interesting, which, again, I only did the demo recently because I was waiting to see more information because there's only 150 cards out of like the 250 that are out right now. But I want to learn more about the game itself. And I will say, now that I've done the demo, now that I've gotten more to read up a bit on it, I am pretty excited. And also, it sounds like a lot of the Flesh and Blood players at my locals are also very excited for this game. So I will, at a minimum, have a locals to play at, which is always nice because with how saturated the market is, I think that's one of the hardest things to do right now. There are just too many people spread out across too many different games at too many different shops. So you have to really pick and choose based on, am I just going to stay at my, 5-minute local and play this game while it's not my favorite, it's just close? Or do I want to drive 35 to 40 minutes to play this other card game with other people? And shocker, I always drive 30 to 45 minutes because I don't want to play Magic. But if I want to play Magic, I could just go up the road and play it, right? So that's obviously where I'm at and why I've covered all these different games over the years. But I truly enjoy playing stuff that's not the big three. So this one, again, I'm very excited for to see how it goes. The one kind of disclaimer that I will add here is that it is Fantasy Flight Games. And to their credit, yes, they have said a lot of great things in the organized play video, so that is worth checking out as well. You can just go to their YouTube and go find it for itself, but they are also known for killing off things like L5R and Star Wars Destiny, shocker. But there is a little bit of hesitation in that regard. However, again, from the video and from the articles and how transparent they've been so far, it does really feel like they finally learned from the culmination of their mistakes and are really putting out something truly special. So if you like Star Wars, this is a slam dunk. Definitely make sure to keep it on your radar. And this is another one where if I can figure out something for locals, we'll probably do like weekly gameplay segments on it of just like, hey, here's what did it at locals and here's some, highlights of it. But again, big question mark will be, what will organized play look like? There is a shell that's out there and it sounds like there's going to be these big things, but I would like to see more of the prizes, see more of what their set release structure is going to look like, and then just also opening the cards because they have some gorgeous foils coming out, but it is very much a wait and see. And then the last one that we got to give it to is Buddy Fight ? So in a really interesting PDF and just kind of like the business review that they put together, and shout out to Different Fight on YouTube who covered this. There was an interesting little note about announcing a new card game in January. And spoiler, it would also be the 10 years of Buddy Fight. And for those that don't know, again, this is one of the best, if not the best card game that Bushiroad ever put out. So I would love to see them bring this back, but what's it going to be? Who knows? But I will say, and just, get this on record now, if it's Buddy Fight, I'll be super excited for it. It was a very well-designed game, a very good competitive game, and again, had that still big, flashy feel of Japanese trading card games that I know and love. So who knows? Again, I think the big question mark is going to be, what does organized play look like for Shadowverse Evolve? And that's something that they absolutely need to figure out ASAP. But it will be interesting to see, if we do a January announcement of the card game, likely means it will be a Gen Con release as well, because, spoiler, Bushiroad loves to do that, and it just makes a lot of sense to release your game at Gen Con or around the Gen Con time. But I hope this means that they've learned from the Shadowverse Evolve side and have meaningful events in those first couple months to not lose out on all the momentum like Shadowverse Evolve has done kind of initially outside of a couple select areas. So really curious to see where this lands, but again, if it's Buddy Fight, 100%, you best believe I will be making some content on it. So with that and a lot of games talked about, what TCG are you looking forward to in 2024? Let me know both what you are currently playing and what other card game might be on your radar. Now, of course, there are other things that I didn't talk about in this video, like Ultraman card game, which does look interesting, but no rules or anything are out yet. And some other ones that I'm just waiting to see more info on, but I felt at least the Bushiroad one was relevant enough to talk about with respect to Shadowverse Evolve also being a consideration in terms of what does Bushiroad do next. So just want to put together a general overview video of everything that's been going on and talk about changes for the channel going forward. Yes, again, Battle Spirits Saga is going to remain the focus. It is still my favorite game, but I do want to focus more on just, hey, as we're coming up on this 10-year anniversary, really just getting back to the roots of the channel and focusing on gameplay and working on collabs with other content creators and just celebrate card games at the end of the day, because that is the most important part. So with that, my friends, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Remember to stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.